Hello! We're going to do a little soloing in Siren's Grotto on a bard, just in case if any of you are interested in learning how to solo on a bard. Sometimes, you'll be chilling in LFG or something, or you won't have a lot of time and you want something to do, so always nice to have some good places you can just chill by yourself until something picks up. So I'm going to be soloing Siren's Grotto, I'm going to be doing the mermaid caves, and I'm going to be doing the inner castle with the sirens. So I got my spell set up here. Overhaste for more damage, the snare, keep them from running off and to slow them, regen, and then a dot for a little added damage. I'm also going to be making use of a charm and then a mez for when I need it. And the DAs just in case I get in trouble and I need to stall. I've already buffed myself up. I got a underwater breathing buff for 5 hours from the Loot of the Howler, and some other. I still got, looks like, Virtue from some time ago, so use the rest of that up. Okay, so getting started with these is pretty easy. What I like to do is just like to hit one with a charm, get it charmed, and then sick it after its friend. And then I'll come up behind and slap her from the back while they fight. Basically, for me, there's two big principles whenever you're thinking about soloing something. First is how am I going to mitigate damage, and the second is how am I going to deal damage. Now, it's pretty easy at first when you're fighting mobs well below your level, like these mermaids here, who are I don't think they get above 51, except for the named. You can kind of usually just run up with whatever and smack them around and be all right. But with higher level mobs, it's if you want to be efficient with your soloing, it's something you're going to have to think about a lot more. So, in this case, I'm using a charm. I'm using a lot of things for damage mitigation, really. But the big one is the charm, because basically, the mob is going to be fighting my pet more often than me, except in this case here, when my pet gets kind of low or breaks, then I'm just going to finish it off myself. So I don't have to worry about my pet dying on me and losing out on the loot and experience there. So refresh, get another charm pet, and just keep going like this. Now, not only do you have to think about how to mitigate damage, but you have to think about how you're going to be dealing damage. And as in a typical group, the reason why soloing is so much difficult is that in a group you're not going to have to think about doing all of those things. Most of the time you're either in a group to deal damage or mitigate damage, or maybe you're in a group to tank or crowd control. When you're soloing, you have to have ways to do all of those things. That's why I think the Bard is one of the better soloing classes out there right now in this era, which is the Planes of Power era on Mangler, because Bards have just access to so many different abilities that we can kind of do everything, and it makes us pretty efficient soloers. I will say there probably is a bit of a gear wall that you might hit, meaning that if you're not geared enough, you might not have the stats to solo efficiently. But this is why I like a snare, because where'd she go? There she is. But that's kind of true with most of the hybrid classes and most classes in general. Very few classes, maybe a Necro, can get away with not having the greatest gear and being an efficient soloer. But in terms of dealing damage, I mainly am sticking to my melee abilities here. I have the dot, but basically I'm dealing most of my damage with melee and the charm pet, which deals a decent damage, even though these are green cons. These mobs in the zone hit pretty hard. They are kind of under cons in my opinion. They're more like soak glass cannons, so they don't got a ton of HP, but they do hit pretty hard. So yeah, so mitigating damage and dealing damage. I'm mitigating damage through regeneration, using my regen song. I also have brought with me some supplies in these distillate healing potions. And I am using a charm pet to basically take the hits for me as I fight most of the time. So in between, when the charm, if I have taken a little damage, right, if my charm breaks or if I'm finishing off my pet, then my regen will hopefully regen me up enough that I mitigate most of the damage that I'm taking. And while Bard Melee may not be the best in the world, it's actually pretty good source of damage when we're soloing here. As you can see, I'm kind of chomping through these mobs pretty well. The hardest part is just keeping track of everything, keeping track of my health, keeping track of my charm, keeping track of my buffs. It's a lot to, and that's why soloing can be kind of exhausting at times, is because it's just so much. It's a lot more work. It tends to be a lot less payoff, but it is more something something you can do on your own. You don't have to have other people help you out. You can do it when you're LFG, wait for groups and stuff. Here, I'm going to break my pet because I'm going to want to break up this pull a little bit differently here. But as you can see, it's not too difficult anything I'm doing here. Mainly just charming the mobs, beating them up. Get into a little bit why I'm doing this camp. Mainly there's an illusion item that drops here that I'm looking for, the water elemental illusion for bards. It's bard and enchanter, but enchanters have a spell, so they don't really care about it. But yeah, it's a pretty rare drop, and it's one of the few illusions I don't have yet. I have most of them, and I like having all the illusions. As you can see here, my health's getting a little low. It's probably a good time soon to pop a pot here. These things are pretty darn cheap, so I don't worry about using them liberally, as I get plenty of cash from killing these mermaids and these sirens. Oh, we just got an AA point. Alright, I'm going to split this pull up by charm. This is actually a 3 pull. There's one hiding behind here in this little cove, but I can split it up by charming that one. Pulls her friend. Beat them up on each other. Have a good time. Something about the devs in this game, they thought they should make mermaids like the hardest mobs in every expansion. If you remember Kedge Keep in Classic, they had mermaids also, and now you have Siren's Grotto. Mermaids, man, they are bad mofos. Alright. So yeah, a little bit about what the different classes also, and about how they solo compare to each other, and reasons why I think Bard is probably one of the better ones. So typically one of the when you hear about soloing, you'll think about a Necro, or you think about a Druid, maybe even a Shaman or a Wizard. And while those classes do have good ability to solo, the one thing that I don't like about them is that they are resource gated, meaning that they use mana, and they basically have to do both damage mitigation and damage dealing, and they have to budget their mana in both ways. And usually those classes are designed to only budget their mana for one of those things. What I mean by that is, a shaman is not built to be able to heal, DPS, and debuff all at the same time. Usually in a group they pick one of those things and they fulfill that role. You're not, if your shaman's there to heal and slow, they're not usually DPSing, because they just can't sustain that kind of mana output. And same thing with a druid. Druids usually aren't trying to heal and DPS in a group. Usually they kind of pick one or the other, and they may splash a little bit if they need to, but they're not full board in either of them. The bard, you don't have to worry about that, because you're resourceless. You're one of the only classes that get to use your abilities in a resourceless manner. So being it makes for a really great farming class, in that I don't have to worry about necessarily being efficient in that way. Where I have to worry about being efficient is with my health. because bards don't have any sort of heals, hence why I bring the potions, which can add a lot of downtime if you're fighting maybe things above your pay grade, or if you're not using your not planning out your encounters carefully. So you want to, I tend to side on maybe killing a little bit slower by having a little bit more mitigation. So that's why instead of maybe singing like an extra 2 dots, I sing the slow and the regen. But yeah, basically I'll finish off killing this cave, then I'll kind of show you how I break the camp up top. I'll probably close out the video there, but just so you guys can get a kind of an idea of how I do this. Notice here my symphony is dropping off, so I'm going to refresh that real quick. Not a big deal to refresh that in the middle of combat here. Not too worried about these mermaids. I'm pretty stacked as far as gear goes, so this is a pretty easy camp for me. Alright, up next you'll see this weaver here. This is actually a named mob, and the weavers are pretty darn tough. You're going to watch her probably, you know, she's dark blue here. She's probably going to kick the crap out of my pet. But regardless, we're going to take her out. These things can actually kill me if I'm not careful, so I have to pay a bit more attention here. Have my pots on the ready, and don't be afraid to use them. That's the big thing. I mean, like I said, these pots are cheap. I would recommend having a stack of 100 with you at all times, because you're gonna. I think these cost me about 8 plat a piece, and these mermaids can drop gems that are upwards of 100 plat a piece, so easily pay for themselves. You can see my pet over here is getting destroyed, even though this thing is slowed. These weavers are no joke. They don't even drop anything good either yet. Or, I don't know if they ever, maybe in another expansion, but I don't need any of that stuff. Alright, since my pet's pretty beat up, I'm just going to go ahead and break her and kick her in the face. Right, almost to the camp here. Alright, so first I'm going to invis up. Nothing in this zone sees invis, which is super nice. Or not in the zone, but nothing in this area. The mermaids and the sirens do not see invis, nor do any of these elementals. So you can run around here, invis all you want. You have free roam, can kind of scout your way out. What I like to do to start breaking this camp is I come over here to this spot right here. Now there's one pather, this mermaid here, this myrmidon. She will path kind of in a U shape like this around this area. So she's kind of the only one you really have to worry about. It's not always a myrmidon either, they can spawn as anything. But in this spot, I can pull this single Templar here, and I shouldn't get aggro from anything else. Let's hope that works. Only thing I have to watch out for that Pather, and looks like she's going away, so I have a little bit of time here. This is my chance. Pull this Templar, and I can probably get her single here. Yep, get her single. I'm just going to try to take her out as quick as I can before that Pather comes to me. If the Pather comes, not a big deal. I'm just going to charm it and use her to finish her off. The Templars are all clerics, so they're going to try to complete heal themselves, so that's why I have the Mez here. I also have my Boastful Bellow AA that stun them. So when she starts healing, I'm going to try to time that in a way so I can kill, so I can interrupt it and then kill her before she can finish. So now she's casting her complete heal. They always cast it just under 50%. I'm gonna stun her now. Drop a mez on her. Here comes that Pather, just in time. Alright, I should finish her off here. Alright, here's the Pather. Perfectly timed. As you can see, these mobs are low enough that I can face tank them. There's some other places you can solo on a bard where you can't face tank the mobs. If you can't face tank them, you can't really. They also can't summon you. But there are places like in the Plane of Fire where you can solo some of those mobs by kiting them around. I don't like it as much because the kill times take a lot longer, and I don't think the XP is any better, and I don't think the loot is very good in that zone compared to this zone. But if you have to, maybe if there's something specific you're looking for, like some trade skill mats that you want to try to kind of farm on your own when you're not doing anything else, it's definitely something you can do. But here, alright, so I got the Pather, I got that one Myrmidon here. The next pull I like to do is I like to pull this Myrmidon, and I pull this one with a charm because she's going to pull this other Myrmidon up on that first step when she comes. I've done this camp a lot, so I know how they all aggro. So and there she comes. So I'm going to charm that one. She's going to come, and I'm going to send her to beat her friend up here. Run behind. Always attack the mobs from behind because you get bonus damage by them not being able to mitigate you as well. It's those small things that make you much more efficient at soloing. Because if you're going to be here for any sort of period of time, those small things, they add up. Rogue charm there early. It's unfortunate, but nothing we can't handle. The only part that sucks about her breaking charm is that my pet loses all the aggro. Alright, so now I got this one charmed. What I'm going to do here is a little bit risky. Oh, there we go, yep. Got a lot of them, but I'm not going to panic. Keep calm, cool, and collected here. DPS 1. I got my pet, so if you saw what I did there, it was a little bit fast, but I took my pet and I had her tag each of the mobs. That gets her a little bit of aggro and it keeps the mobs off me. Oh, she broke charm. I'm going to charm this full health one. What I'm going to do before I charm it is I'm going to fade, drop my aggro. Alright. Now I'm going to do it again. We're going to tag all the mobs. Alright. And I'm going to go and finish this low health one off first. This was my old pet. So there, yeah. Sometimes you got to be kind of fast with what you do there. That was, and that's just all from practice. You know, I know what to do in those situations, so I know what things to do. If you're new to it, that could be a bit of a scary scenario that might have gotten you killed. But me dying here many times in the past has led me to kind of just know what to do immediately. All right, my pet's getting kind of low. I might break this pet and kill it for the experience here in a second. Let's see, it's going to drop in 10. I think she'll survive. Oh, maybe not. Alright, I'm going to risk it. This is probably pretty dumb, but I'm going to risk it. Alright, I'm going to kill her. Bam. Nice. I'm going to kill this other one. Bam. Nice. Alright. You see, that was a 3 pull. So, things can get hairy quickly. What happened there was there's 2 guards out front, and then a Pather came down those stairs. So when I went and pulled that like I normally do, there was actually an extra mob there. This is a Templar again, so I'm going to have to stun her when she gets below 50%. Usually what I do to know if they're healing is I have the game sounds on and I listen for the sound, the healing sound. She's that sound right there. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but she's starting to cast her heal. I'm going to wait. Stun. Run behind her. Wait a bit, and I'm going to drop my mez just to make sure. Sometimes, depending on if I get lucky, I can actually kill them without having to drop the mez, but I like to be safe. Okay, so now you can see I got myself kind of cleared out a nice little area here. I've got some mobility now. hardest parts over, kind of. This next pull is actually can be pretty messy. If you want, you can load up a lull, and you can lull them and split them that way. But I'm gonna kind of, as they say, big dick it, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna charm one of these icy servants. And these icy servants are probably the meanest mobs here. They're the ones you really gotta watch out for. They hit for a lot, and they got a damage shield that is pretty nasty. You don't want to be hitting them with that damage shield on. It does like 30 or something damage every time you hit into it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to let these two fight each other for a little bit. Whenever I get two icy servants like this is tend to what I like to do. I just like to let them fight each other for a bit. And when mine is about to break, if he breaks before, I'm going to charm the other one and use him to finish him off. But I'm trying to slow this one here, but he doesn't seem to be. He seems to be resisting a lot. Might be immune to snare or something. I don't remember. But mine is definitely winning. But yeah, I only do this if there's two icy servants because I don't want to melee him with that damage shield on. All right, mine's about to break, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click his damage shield off, so when he breaks I don't have to worry about slapping him. All right, and now I can hit him freely. And that's a nice little trick you can do. When you have a mob charmed, you can click off their buffs, so it's like free dispel. So I don't have to load a dispel and waste my time doing that. Alright. Alright, so I got the two icy servants down. Now I'm going to come around here. There's two mobs that hide back here, and they'll aggro you if you're not careful when you like pull these mobs up here. So I'm going to take care of these two guys. First, we got a Myrmidon here. I'm going to charm her. Run around a bit, avoid some damage that way. While my charm's landing. Alright. She's mad at my pet. I'm going to beat her from behind now. As you can see, this zone is very rarely anybody here. Every once in a while I'll catch like a 6-boxer here, kind of farming this place. But other than that, this is a pretty open camp. And that's why I like it. Alright, so I'm going to break this pet, even though she's not that beat up, because this next pull, she broke herself. This next pull is going to be a big pull. It's going to be, I think, 3 mobs. So, as you've noticed, I've only had to use 1 healing potion so far, so I'm doing pretty good on that, being efficient. I might pop one here in a bit, but I don't think I'm going to need it actually. If something goes crazy, I might pop it, but yeah, the heal potions are basically covering our weakness of not being able to heal ourselves. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull this Myrmidon with a charm. Should pull her friend, the Templar. I like to charm Myrmidons over Templars because the Templars like to cast, and their spells don't do nearly as much damage as their melee. Also, it helps burn these Templars down before they finish a complete heal. Usually, if I have a pet, I don't have to mez it. I can just hit it with a bellow. Alright, she's starting to heal. Go ahead and interrupt her right there. Yep, she knows she's done for. Alright. Again, I'm going to kill my pet here, because I don't want to have to deal with her breaking in the middle of the next combat here. Now, that's one of the main reasons here why I like the Bard Charm so much over something like the Enchanter Charm. Because the Bard Charm, it's short duration, but fast casting, and so I can use it a lot more as kind of a a DPS slash mitigation tool than an enchantress to kind of manage a pet. And while enchanter charm pets are definitely powerful as they can, do stuff like haste and all that, it is a much bigger liability to the enchanter, and that's why usually enchanters aren't caught around soloing all that much. Even though people kind of talk them up as these big soloers, they just tend not to have the best, when we call it damage mitigation. And what I mean by that, right, is the enchanter's not fighting a lot of the time, but if a enchanter does get hit, they don't really have any way to heal themselves. Similar to a bard, but I have high regen and I have those potions that can help me out. And enchanter, while they can use the potions, they don't, they take a lot more damage because their AC is a lot lower, and it's a lot easier to run out of health on an enchanter. Okay, so this next pull, I don't have any Myrmidons, so the next best thing I think I'm going to do is I'm going to just charm on these Beguilers. The Beguilers are enchanter class mobs, so they're going to, cast enchanter stuff. Not that great, but it's better than it beating on my ass. So I'm going to charm one of this Beguiler. Hopefully this other Beguiler over here doesn't come, but it can sometimes depending on how the mob paths. I should get that Templar though. So here we go. And yeah, I got, oh no, she resisted my charm. That's what happened there. Alright, so I'm going to run around. I like to run around. It helps mitigate damage while I'm trying to get the charm off. Those little things to help yourself out. All right, I'm gonna take down this Templar, and I've almost basically broken up the camp. There's just one little other spot I have to break, and then basically this camp is all broken, and I can have free reign to run around. All right, she's healing. Go ahead and interrupt her right there. Bam, she's down. All right, next, this Watery Servant. Get him. Then after this, it's basically all easy mode from here. The mobs tend to come in packs of either single or duos, which can easily be managed. These Watery Servants are kind of joke mobs in the zone. Their shtick is that they're invisible, but I have a See Invis item, so that doesn't really bother me. So for maybe people who don't have See Invis, they can kind of surprise you if they if you're not aware where they can spawn. I know all these spawns like the back of my own hand. I've been here so much. This Beguiler really does want to be charmed. She's gonna die for that. I know all these spawns like the back of my own hand, so there's no way they're gonna surprise me. But if you're new here and you don't have See Invis, they could definitely surprise you, and it's not something you want to be surprised by, because, like I said, even though they're probably the weakest mob here, all the mobs here they hit pretty decently for their level. I mean, I think these these Sirens can hit for almost 300. She got a 210 on me there, 41. I have pretty stat gear, and at the end of the video I can show you guys what I'm working with, so you can kind of, if you're on your own bard, get a gauge of maybe what you might not be capable of. Oh, did I run out of inventory space? I did. Don't look at my bags. Just close your eyes real quick, and I'll tell you you can open them. It's a little messy in here. Alright, you can open your eyes again. Alright. I might, maybe I'll edit that out of the video so you guys don't have an aneurysm when I open my bag up there. I have to, it's time, it's like cleaning my room. I need to organize my bags. I know some people can't stand having unorganized bags. For me, it's one of those things, I just kind of let the mess pile up until I can't take it anymore, and it's getting close to that point. I have a lot of leftover trade skill crap in those bags that I need to do something with. Either sell it or use it up. But yeah, so I'm going to finish off this mob, and I'm going to kill those other 3 mobs. And then when I do that, I will end the video with kind of showing you guys what my equipment is, so you kind of know on a scale of maybe where you're at compared to me, so you can kind of judge whether this might be something you want to do. If this is a little too tough, there's actually some other great zones of value, so you can kind of toy around in. One of the zones that I messed around in a lot before I was this geared was Velcator's Labyrinth. I'd kill like the kobolds in lower. Oh my gosh, double. So this is got a double charm break there early, so I'm just gonna pop a pod just to keep myself healthy. Oops, don't do that. Instead of go attack the wrong mob. Yeah, Velcator's Labyrinth, you can kill the kobolds there, doing the same strategy. They're just weaker mobs. It's basically the same thing as this zone. The mobs are just a little bit weaker. They drop just a little bit worse loot. But it's a great place to get started with kind of soloing in this style. What I get here? Conch shell horn. Yeah, I don't need that. There's some really nice items that drop here though. One of them is the Wave Crasher. I know that's a nice little twink item. It sells for quite a bit in the bazaar. Another one is the Drums of the Beast, which I have here, which come in handy. They have an instant click EB, so you know when I'm raiding in the plane of water and someone forgets their EB or something, I can save their life. It's also just a clicky to have in case you want to dispels or something like that. I'm a clicky fanatic, as you can see. I have a whole bunch of clickies. I might make a video later talking about all the clickies and how I use them. One other trick, though, real quick, before we finish up here, I want to talk about is when you're charming, and this might be something that people who aren't as well geared might want to take more advantage of. I can have the advantage. I can be lazy about it, but if your charm breaks early, as you kind of saw it did a couple times with me there, when you're re-charming, it tends to be a good idea to try to hit fade just before your charm lands. And the reason for that is when your charm breaks, your pet loses all that aggro that it had. And so the mob's going to be beating on you because you've built up some aggro from fighting the mob, and your pet's aggro is going to go back to 0. So it's unlikely that your pet's going to be able to re-attain aggro. Well, if you fade just before your charm lands, you wipe your aggro too, so you both start back at 0. And that way you can keep your pet tanking basically even after a break. You can't fade after you charm because your fade makes you invisible, and invisibility breaks charm. So yeah. Here I'll give you a quick look at my gear setup right now. If I hit, all right, let's do it one by one. Earring of Decession. This is just a little earring from Lucklin. Drops from the Creator or High Priest, either one of those from Sarah. Helm of Flowing Time. Drops from Valenzac and Plane of Time. This is Avatar of War Mask, probably one of my weaker pieces. High Envelius. Bone Earring of Evasion. Not super great earring, but decent. Vexthal. Breastplate of the Void from Cursed and Sarah. The neck from Aten Hara. Cerulean sleeves from VT. You can pause the video if you want to look at any of these for longer. The Crystal Shadow Cloak. Court of Midnight. Most of this stuff's from Vexthal. This is from Plane of Time, Shroud of Provocation. Umberside Bracer. One of my best pieces here, the Bracer from Quorm. Luckily to get this pretty early. It's a really nice bracer for bards. Resilience Fire Boots, nice elemental boots. The Charm. Vulak Gauntlets, these things were crazy in era and still good today. Probably won't replace these until I get something from Plane of Time. And then one of my more weaker pieces, my leggings, if I remind, these are like chain leggings from Vexthal. Not a whole lot of legs for bards, so this is kind of what I got stuck with using. My rings, the ring from Saru, it's got nice mana regen, super good for bards. One of my weaker rings, but it's got mana regen on it, and so I have it. Got the Songblade, best weapon in era right now for bards. Super lucky to get this so early in the expansion. And then this drops from the Plane of Air. Nice little weapon to have, 1719. And then Brain Kazakh Thul, one of the Velius item, but super crazy for its era. Really good, still good today. Probably won't replace this till Plane of Time. And then just my clicking my ammo slot. But yeah, so that's my gear. Knowing what I said, up here are my stats. So if you're ever wondering, you know, is this something I can do? You know, you don't have to have. I mean, as you can see, I did this pretty easily with the stats that I have. So even if you're not quite there, even if maybe you're high end Velius with some Luckland gear, you could probably do some of this. You might have to be a little bit more careful, maybe bust a couple more heal pots. But it's definitely doable if you have good tactics. All right, yeah, so that's Siren's Grotto. From here on, I would probably just start pulling these girls on the stairs. You're never going to run out of mobs here by yourself. I've gotten close to clearing most of it, if that makes any sense. I usually never am able to get those girls up on the top balcony there, but I can clear all this first floor and basically all those girls on the steps up there, and then those two elementals there as well before I start getting repops. And not quite sure. I probably make somewhere around, if I'm being conservative with my numbers, 2,000 to 3,000 plat an hour. Doing this, if I'm going hardcore and like not slacking. A lot of times I just kind of am slacking around and googling stuff while I do this and not really keeping up with respawns. But because nothing in here sees invis, so I can just hit fade and just chill out here for indefinitely, and nothing's ever going to kill me. But yeah, this is kind of like my stomping grounds. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that. Hope you learned something cool. And if you have any questions, leave a comment in the video. Thanks.